morning, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing World War I. So the story about World War I starts, I believe, back in the Enlightenment and the changing of society from the feudal system towards the modern era. But the majority of people start with the unification of Germany. See, Germany in the early 1800s was split into over 300 tiny little kingdoms, Prussia being the largest of these. And Prussia, widely known for their military strength and prowess, kind of led the fight in unifying the German states together to fight against outside threats. In the early 1800s, they merged from over 300 to 39 countries, Prussia kind of taking the lead in this. A man named Otto von Bismarck is the prime minister of Prussia at the time. He's not the king, but he is essentially the leader and ruler of the country in its day-to-day business, and he's also very military minded. His goal is to unite all of Germany, and after several wars he succeeded in uniting all but 4 of them. So these they band together in an alliance to protect themselves against anyone else. This works out for them. Together they're fairly strong, and you see here the 1815 to 1866 map of the German states. I apologize, it's in German. I could not find a good English translated map for you, but you can see here the fragmentary nature that is the German states at this time. This is Otto von Bismarck. This is a colorized version of him. All these photos were taken in black and white, but throughout this presentation you'll see a few colorized photos where an artist has gone back in after the fact and added color in. Okay, let's move on to talking about Napoleon and his blunder. And this isn't the Napoleon that you're thinking of. This is Napoleon III. Napoleon III declares war on all 4 of these states. He's the leader of France at the time. He's a relative of the original Napoleon, and he hopes to add these 3 Germanic states to France's territory. Instead, they unite with Germany because they're Germanic descent and declare war on France. This leads to what is called the Franco-Prussian War. Now, the Franco-Prussian War is really the war that sets the stage for World War I in a very large way. It gives Germany the idea that they can easily win a war with France, but it also then starts an arms race along with industrialization. It starts an arms race all over Europe to build up defenses against the other nations who are also arming themselves. So back to the Franco-Prussian War. In September of 1870, French armies are defeated, but Napoleon III did not surrender. So the Germans actually march on Paris, which is fairly close to the German border and these three states. Napoleon rides out, Napoleon III that is, and he gets captured. France surrenders, and then they end up giving up 2 large provinces to Germany on the French-German border, Alsace and Lorraine. Okay, here's Napoleon III. Fancy mustache. And here is the play-by-play for the Franco-Prussian War. I'm going to use my mouse here, so hopefully you can see. So this is Alsace and Lorraine here, and the Germans come in and they march on Paris. Okay, so march on Paris, but it's fought in the north of France. Now keep this area in mind because it's going to pop up again during World War One. Germany is going to take a similar routes, though instead of coming through the south, they're going to in this northern region, they're going to end up heading through Belgium, which will anger the United Kingdom. Okay, United Germany. January 1781, Germany officially unites under the Kaiser Wilhelm I, and von Bismarck becomes the Chancellor of Germany, like a prime minister. So Otto von Bismarck is serving under Wilhelm I, just like the current Prime Minister of England serves under the Queen. If when you're watching this, the Queen is still alive. During the 1870s, 1880s, and 1890s, Germany grows more powerful for three main reasons. First, they have large reserves of iron and of coal. Now, iron and coal equals power during the Industrial Revolution. If you have these two ingredients, you have what is predominantly required to build industry and large machines. They also built railroads all over Germany. I've talked about this in the past, where the number one thing that makes it possible for a country to grow strong rapidly and to get out of a third world status and what we consider a first world status is improved transportation networks. It not only helps commerce, but it also helps military capability, and pretty much everyone benefits from an improved system of transportation networks. Two other nations had enormous iron and coal reserves: Great Britain and the United States. And the first industrial revolution starts in Great Britain. The second predominantly takes place in the United States with things like the Continental Railroad, but also then the oil and steel industries that pop up in the late 1800s. Here we see Otto von Bismarck, or no, that's Wilhelm I, I apologize. He's got great sideburns. Okay, Germany's great worry is their geographic location. They're pinched between Russia and France. Europe is modernizing and industrializing all around them. There is a race to acquire raw materials, not only in their home countries, but all over the world. And this starts the imperial period in European history and American history, where Europeans are carving up Africa and also the East. I mean, the Spanish take over the Philippines, and then the Americans take it over from them later on. And India has been conquered by England, as has Egypt during this time period, and the majority of Africa is conquered by European nations. And there's also a huge arms race going on as these nations are competing with each other, trying to carve up the planet. So they're not only building defensive weapons, they're building offensive weapons as a part of this arms race and the industrial military complex that develops from the imperial period here. Germany, being in the middle of Europe, feels trapped and surrounded by potential enemies. And they are, essentially. You've got England to the north, you've got France there to the west, and then you've got Russia to the east. Okay, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire is to the south. To solve this problem, Bismarck made alliances with other nations. Okay, Austria-Hungary is kind of an easy win for making an alliance because culturally they're very similar to Germany. The Austrian people are a Germanic people from the Germanic tribe stemming back, pre-Roman Empire, and culturally they are very similar to one another. I've been to Germany and Austria, and the culture is very similar. They eat similar things. They speak the same language. They have similar, cultural values. I mean, simple things like traveling down the street and in Germany and then in Austria as well. And I'm walking down the street and I'm looking around and I feel like there's something wrong, and I realize it's because there's no trash. There's no trash anywhere. They're very clean people that, is neat and tidy, and that's part of the culture. There's also this idea of precision and perfection and craftsmanship and doing things well that the Germans and Austrian people generally hold as important to them. That's not to say that everyone exhibits these qualities, but as a general rule, more than some of the other European counterparts, they're fairly known for having similar characteristics and traits. Okay. Later, Italy ends up joining the alliance, and this forms the Triple Alliance. Now, Italy is culturally more similar to someplace like France. However, politically, they more aligned with Germany at this time period. So here you see the two alliances that end up popping up: the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. I believe is how you pronounce it. I am not exactly certain about that. So you've got Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy kind of here in the core and center of Europe. And then you've got France, Great Britain, and Russia surrounding them. So militarily, if Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy end up in a war, they are at a disadvantage from the moment the war starts if the Triple Entente actually enters into the war, because they will automatically have a war on two fronts and two sides. And so if they're going to start a war, they're going to have to win very, very quickly. Take that into mind as we go into the next section. So they're in a dangerous situation as Wilhelm dies, and his son Friedrich II, he ends up ruling for only 3 months before dying of throat cancer. When you have kings who die in rapid succession, it destabilizes the country and government, and there's a sense of unease. The economy takes a dip, and people are uncertain now as Wilhelm II is taking over. Germany continues to grow powerful. Other nations are worried. Forgot to have this click next. But who do you think is the most worried? France. Okay. Paris is fairly close to the border there. Germany is building a powerful navy as well as powerful army, artillery, etc. England is worried. And so they end up forming this Triple Entente with between France, England, and Russia that I explained a few minutes ago with the map. Okay, this means triple understanding, I believe, in French, or agreement. So Europe is now divided into two powerful sides. Each side spends the next 10 years in a huge arms race with one another. Tensions are growing high, and then one day it happened. Okay, I'm going to pause there. And we will pick this up in the next video.